Today, I'm going to show you how to make these Mortal Kombat ninja costumes with light up vest and light up hands. I've always wanted to make a Mortal Kombat group costume. The problem is they're so diverse in how they look. Johnny Cage is really simple, and then say GORO is next to impossible, even though I have seen some good ones. Then I realized that in Mortal Kombat 3, they had every single ninja and they were clones of each other. So what I decided to do is make all of them. And because I usually take these out to costume contests and parties, I wanted to make sure that they had their powers. There are things that light up and the colors that would go. And I figured out how to make them go to the surrounding sound. They're actually all responding to my voice right now. The reason why I really like them is their design lines were super clean and simple. They're really bright and colorful. They kind of still maintain that cartoon character look, and they didn't get to that bulked up superhero look quite yet. So that's why I really like the Mortal Kombat 3 character model. So this is how I went about making them. I wanted to experiment with lights in my costumes, and I thought adding LEDs underneath the suits would be the best way to give the ninjas their powers. The foam and fabric that I found did a perfect job of diffusing just enough light and adding to the effect. I'll explain some of that later. The LED lights that I found had a built-in control that respond to sound. That's why they dance this way, and they all have their own functions, and you can change how they respond to the sound. And it could be controlled with a smartphone via Bluetooth. All right, I'm gonna keep explaining these things, but first I gotta take this thing off. I do want to say that all of the instructions for this are on Instructables and the patterns, so you can just download those, print those off, and get started there. And if you're new to costume building and the LED lights seem a little bit intimidating, I promise you that they're not, because it's simply just running the cord, pulling the backing off, and strapping them down. So if you can build the suit, I'm pretty sure you can build this. If you don't want to do the light up effects, that's no problem either. You can actually use the same patterns, and you just use 2 layers of EVA foam as opposed to using 1 layer of EVA foam and then the foam that the light diffuses through. Step 1, let's build the LED vest. Use EVA foam to trace and cut the black underside pattern. Trace and cut the flap, the rear belt, then use the HD foam to trace and cut the color top pattern. The way that I did it is I actually used the HD foam and traced a slightly bigger version of it. Use some spray adhesive to lightly tack down the HD foam to the colored fabric, but not too much because you don't want it to bleed through. Wrap the edges around the back, then sew in the horizontal lines, then the parallel black lines into the foam and fabric. Follow the parallel line and sew about a 1/2 inch inside. After you have that sewed down, add a piece of 1/2 inch Velcro along the parallel line. Now what you want to do is set that aside and use a heat gun to mold the EVA foam for the under part of the vest. Try to turn down the edges of the vest to give it a little bit of a rounded look. I added a concave to the center to give the LED lights a little bit more room to glow. You don't want the actual strip to be touching the foam because it won't get the glowing effect. You'll just see the lights going all the way through completely. Cover the foam belt with fabric and glue. Glue the front and the back of the belt onto the vest and foam. Use contact cement to glue Velcro to the underside of the vest. The Velcro strap is definitely worth the extra time. It allows you to make adjustments to the LEDs at any time. Cut a small hole into the back of the vest that feeds your LED strip light through. Remove the backing and then just stick down the lights. Cover the exposed lights in the back with electrical tape to hide a few of those naked lights if it doesn't run all the way through. Glue the extra rib straps to help for a snug fit. Then all you have to do is Velcro the under vest to the top of the vest, and you'll catch this look right here. And then your vest is done. So now we're going to talk about the forearm gauntlets. The focus of this project is to use the LED lights to represent their powers each ninja possesses. So I added 2 LED lights to the palm of each hand and hid the wiring, probably pretty poorly, under the gauntlets. So step 1, print the pattern provided, make sure it fits your forearm. Trace and cut the fabric, plasta dip the EVA foam, tape off the triangles and use spray adhesive to mount the fabric to the foam. Then use a blade to cut out the taped off sections. It's easier to do it this way because if you cut it first and try to line it up, it's almost impossible. Next, add the strapping to the forearms so that the piece is wearable. Now let's move on to the palm lights. I made the simplest 2 LED light rig powered by a battery and a simple on-off switch. This is the first time ever soldering, so please, if there's a way to do it better, let me know. Mount the battery in the upper forearm using a piece of elastic. Run a cord along the top of the armor down to the palm. Simply hot glue and electrical tape the lights to the palm strap. Then put the whole unit back on and glue the switch to a spot that you can click with your thumb. Now, the shin pads are the same thing as the forearms, except you're just going to not do the LED part. So cut and trace the patterns, plastidip the black EVA foam, tape off the exposed black parts, spray mount the foam fabric to the foam, wrap it back underneath, and then add the strapping and Velcro. Then cut out the taped off sections. Your shin pad is done. Now I'm going to move on to the mask part. And I do want to say that there's a lot of options to use for masks. You can buy your own, you can use some foam templates that you can find online, or you can do it the way that I did it. I'm not saying this is the best way, I just want to explain to you that this is how I did it, and maybe you can do the same thing if you so choose. I had to make something that I was easily able to make 4 of these things in an efficient process. So this is what I did. So in this section, you're going to create a mask positive. Typically in sculpting and molding, you create a negative, but that's just not how I did it. You'll have a jig that a warbler can be shaped around and pressed against to create the mask, or masks in my case. I used an airsoft mask as the base, and I used Sculpey to shape the mask to my liking. I really like the Mortal Kombat masks that look like a grill, so that's what I ended up doing. Bake the mask to the Sculpey instructions. Cover your sculpt in press and seal as your release agent. Heat the warbler and press it against your sculpt. Make sure to heat and press in all of the details. Let the mask cool and cut off the excess around the edges. Pull the mask off and carefully cut out the grill using a utility blade. Add black mesh to the back side of the grill. Tie 2 straps of elastic so that you can attach it to your face. In my case, it didn't matter if you could see the straps because the hood hid the back of the mask. I'm sure that this seems like a lot to get started, and if you're into costume building, it's a lot of simple processes that I just kind of put together in a different way. If this seems a bit overwhelming, just let me know in the comments, or if you see this on Instructables, send me a message and I'll try to instruct you the best way possible. I know there's a lot of Mortal Kombat characters out there, but I wanted to make sure that everybody had the option to do them the way that I did, because I think that the lights make it a lot of fun. And then if you go to a costume party where there's music, these things are just an absolute hit. So thanks for paying attention, thanks for listening, and I'd love to see what you make. Until next time, cheers.